Okay, I'm thrilled to have Mark Schaefer here. It's a pleasure to see you. I think we first met on Twitter. I've known your intern, met at SoSlam.
Yeah.
So tell me about your new book.
Well, I'm really excited. It's called Born to Blog, and I do it with my good friend Sanford Smith on Twitter. He's at Pushing Social. And the thing that really excites me about this is I've been asked for a long time for a book that's similar to the Tao of Twitter that's about blogging. Because the Tao of Twitter is, you can read it in 90 minutes, it has an impact, and it has a human aspect to the book. It's not just about mentions and retweets and tweets. And so Sanford and I started talking about this, and we became friends, and we both have a passion bordering on obsession about helping people with their blogs. And so it became an idea for a book. And the thing that makes this different and special, I think, is if you look at obstacles that people have to blogging, it's not necessarily ideas, it's not necessarily a desire to do it. They're all human factors, like how do I have the courage to do it? How do I have the time to do it? What if someone disagrees with me? You know, what do I do? So these are all human characteristics, and so we wrote a very human book. Now there are lots of tips and tricks in there to, for anybody of any blogging skill. But I really think that blogging is a human endeavor, and so we wrote a very human book, and I think that's what's going to make it stand out.
Well, Mark, you're here talking to a group of solo public relations professionals. We're all writers, or we wouldn't be here. And we talked about that kind of struggle that we have with that discipline of having to write on a very regular basis. Can you give us some tips, for example, on monetizing your blog? We go to all that trouble every week anyways. How can we capitalize on that?
Well, really, I think there's only one realistic monetization strategy. I mean, I think I counted one time there were 6 different ways to monetize your blog. Almost all of them require a huge audience, huge traffic, all right, to have an opportunity to monetize. And I think really the only practical way is to do it indirectly, and that's what I do, okay? So on my blog, I don't have ads, I don't have, links, I don't have sponsored posts, but what I trust is that people will think enough about my content that they'll want to hire me as a consultant, hire me as a speaker, buy my books, come to one of my speeches or something. So you're building a voice of authority, and you're selling adjacencies. You're not actually selling through the blog. And I think in the long run, that's the better strategy. I mean, I think that's the more value-added strategy. I think, trying to monetize your audience and make a quick buck is, probably short-sighted. A lot of people are doing it, but you got to have a huge audience first, and that's difficult for most people.
You said something, and I remember I tweeted it today during your conversation about return on influence, and it was something about a lot of bloggers are selling out, or words to that effect.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that and maybe the ethics involved in blogging, and then perhaps in the cloud scores that people want and things like that?
Well, what I meant by that is there's a young blogger who I admire very much, and just a terrific writer, really writes from the heart about human issues. And then all of a sudden I started seeing, his last blog post was about a paper shredder, and there was another blog post about some other thing. And so he's now taking money and his blog has become an infomercial. Now, to me, everybody has to make their own decision. Everybody has to do what they need to do to feed their family. So I'm not going to judge, but in this case, in many cases, I think people have so much other potential, and once you cross that line and you become an ad instead of a person, the trust goes down. I mean, when I see a blog post about a paper shredder, stops me in my tracks. I'm not going to read that blog. I'm not going to tweet that blog, and I frankly think less about the blogger, because you're making a couple $100 for a sponsored post. Is it really worth it? You've offended me as your reader. You've stepped away from me as your reader. And again, people have to make their own decisions. I mean, I'm not going to judge anybody that has to feed a family or do what they need to do. But I think in the long run, business relationships are built on trust. People are tired of being advertised to. They're sick of being marketed to. They want to hear your story. They want to hear what you have to say today. But when you turn it into an ad, it makes it something different. And, that I'm not going to do.
Okay. Talk to us about klout scores. You did this morning. Touch on that.
Well, the sad thing about klout and klout scores is, klout has, as a company, that made some PR missteps, and there's a lot of negative publicity about klout. And so when people talk about, they talk about klout like Kleenex. If you want a facial tissue, you don't say, I need a facial tissue, you say, I need a Kleenex. And the whole social scoring thing is kind of the same. People don't talk about, what's your peer index score? How are you shaping up on opinions today? They talk about klout. And so there's this dark cloud over the whole subject because people are so emotional about klout. So what I really encourage businesses, PR professionals, marketers to do is cut through the emotion. If you feel icky about klout, fine, deal with it. There's still a trend here. There's so influence and power on the web are showing up in different ways. You need to understand that. Get over the emotion. You can't run a business based on what you wish for. You have to run a business on what is. And if you ignore the trends around social influence and social scoring, you're doing a disservice to you and your business and your customers. So, what I'm trying to do is get people to look rationally at what do these scores really do? What do they mean? What do they not do? And put it in context as a useful tool. It's like credit score. There's a very limited number of decisions you can make on a credit score, and yet millions of companies profitably use credit scores every day. It doesn't mean everything. It doesn't predict anything. It doesn't predict whether you're going to pay back a loan or not. But it's a data point that you should consider in your business. And I think that's the appropriate way to use these scores.
The other question I wanted to ask you about blogging has to do with tribes. I know you're in a tribe, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm in a tribe. And talk to us about the value of being in a tribe.
Well, for me, being in a tribe as a blogger, a lot of bloggers think, if I could just get, tweeted by Chris Brogan, my world would change, my life would change. If Guy Kawasaki would just pay attention to me, that would be my big break. Doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. You'll get a short-term spike in your traffic, and then it'll go back down. And the people that visit your blog do just that. They visit your blog. They don't stick around. So driving traffic is the wrong metric. What you need is to surround yourself with a group of people who care about you, who are going to comment and make you a better blogger and have the guts to say, that blog was terrible, try it this way, or do it this way, or this is why I didn't share your post. And so when I started out, there were a group of about 5 or 6 people. We were all baby bloggers together, and that was my original tribe. And we just kind of clung to each other and loved each other and loved our blogs, and we commented and went out of our way, and that's how we all grew. And I think that's a better strategy, is to find your own group of people, your own little support group that you can kind of support each other, promote each other, and then grow up together. And that's really the only long-term strategy to grow your blog, is to you have to grow your blog by loving on every reader, one reader at a time, just one subscriber at a time. There's no overnight success, and it's not going to come from Guy Kawasaki or Chris Brogan. You got to do it yourself, organically, by loving every single reader.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark Schaefer.
All right. Thank you. My pleasure.